Sheffer. You probably know me by now. If not, this is a good time to get to know. I'm pleased to know you. I'm very pleased that we have a nice crowd coming from multiple countries. And in order to make some order here, the chat will be open. You can put your question, comments, also questions and answer. This is another place where you can put your questions in. Don't hesitate to put your comments, questions, and so on. And let me start, first of all, again, to welcome everybody, including those that just arriving now. And we are pleased to have you all. This is a very good opportunity to reconnect. We used to do a lot of webinar during the COVID time. Now it's past COVID, but still it's a little bit difficult to get to everybody, and we want to get to everybody. So the most effective way to do it is through webinars. The webinars are typically recorded, so one can listen to them, watch them later on. We also have, in this case, special videos that will attach to this presentation. The video is a short, concise summary of the whole presentation. And we would like to keep in touch with you. Don't forget, please, at the end of this webinar, you will get a short email, a survey. We will ask you several questions. Please answer them because they are very important for us to understand how we can make it better. Okay, it's 5 minutes late, and I would like to introduce you to Cheyenne. Cheyenne, are you on?
I'm here. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar on Hydrocell Youth. My name is Cheyenne. I'm the International Sales Agent here for Salvona. Before we get started, I just want to give you a few key points. So I handle any of the regulatory purchase orders, sales needs, samples. I'm your contact person for any of your international needs for Salvona. So please feel free to reach out to me. There's going to be a slide at the end of this with all of our contact information, including email addresses for myself and the rest of the team that are here to help you. So if you have any purchase orders or any questions, please feel free to send me those. Welcome back to anybody that participated in our first webinar last month. I was on skin exfoliation. If you missed that webinar, we have a recording of it on our website as well as on our YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out. Sam said there's also going to be a recording of this webinar. So if you want to share it with a colleague or a customer, you're going to be able to do that. There's a second session tomorrow afternoon for the US domestic and South America customers. So as soon as that's completed, we'll get the webinars uploaded to the website. We encourage you to share them with your customers, rewatch them, try to get as much information as you can from them. As Sam said, the chat is open. Please, as you're going along, write the questions or comments in the chat. We will get to them at the very end. We probably won't be able to stop the presentation, but we promise we will get those questions out at the end. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our head R&D engineer, Mr. John Grasso, who's going to give you an in-depth dive into Hydrocell Youth. John?
Thank you for the introduction, Cheyenne, and thank you everyone for joining me this morning. Your time is morning. I'll be talking today about the Hydrocell Youth technology, and let me go ahead and start by sharing my screen and the presentation I have for Hydrocell Youth. I hope that it'll be useful and in-depth. Allowing us to really dive deeply into the technology, what it's for, who can benefit from it and how, and all aspects of anti-aging for skincare. So this is a unique technology developed by Salvona Technologies. Salvona, our facility is seen here. One of our facilities is located in New Jersey in the United States. And we are delivering the future of skincare through targeted encapsulation to reverse visible aging. So the key points here that I want to highlight and will highlight throughout this discussion are the encapsulation as a means to deliver functional ingredients to the skin. The encapsulation is critical for the delivery of these functional ingredients. We will look at today Hydrocell Youth. Hydrocell Youth is a technology for youthful, rejuvenated skin that uses a proprietary encapsulation theory with a core shell structure to allow for the delivery of these functional ingredients to the deeper layers of the skin. These are the topics we'll be discussing today. We will be discussing signs of aging, what aging signs look like, how we can see that on the skin, as well as what is happening below the skin for these signs of aging to come to the surface. The properties of the technology itself, how it looks, how it interacts in formulations, and how it can be added to formulations. Clinical studies showing the efficacy of these technologies for formulation, marketing claims that you can make using the technology in your formulation, and tips on how to formulate with the technology to introduce it to a finished formula. So all of these topics will be touched on, likely in this order, if I'm remembering correctly, and we will discuss how this encapsulation technology can benefit you. So we'll start with the problem. Problem is signs of aging, such as around the mouth, eyes, or forehead, wrinkles in the skin that naturally occur over time due to certain factors beneath the skin surface. Certain proteins and protein precursors decrease. This leads to a lack of suppleness in the skin, leading to wrinkles. And what we're looking for is to kind of restore that youthful appearance and that youthful, supported, plump, hydrated skin. And we do that through using Hydrocell Youth. So here we'll look a little bit into the skin aging. And what we can see from aged skin as far as on the outermost layers and the lower layers of the skin. You can see the skin layers here, the cuticle, the epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis. What those are, the cuticle is the layer of skin on the outermost layer that we see. The epidermis is right under that. And then in the dermis, we have things like elastin, collagen, we have hyaluronic acid, and then beneath that, there are fat cells. So what we're going to focus on is the dermis here. And let me see if I can't annotate this slide and allow for highlighting some key critical points here. Okay. So here is the layer that we're going to be focusing on in the dermis. Now in the dermis, in younger skin, I know this isn't a Q&A, so feel free to follow along with me. But if it were the Q&A section now, I would ask, what differences do you see between the younger and the aged skin in the layer of the dermis? And the answer would be these collagen atoms, or collagen structures rather, are more full. Therefore, they're supporting the skin, and we see the even skin layer at the top here. The elastin is more structured. These elastin fibers are supporting the skin, giving more supple appearance for the skin. And there is higher levels of hyaluronic acid. Here, you can see greater levels of hyaluronic acid versus in the aged skin. So what does this mean and why is this important? This is showing that in younger skin, we have copious amounts of these elastin, collagen, and hyaluronic acids to support the skin and really build it up and give it a sort of structure to keep it full and plump. And as skin ages, we lose these factors, and this results in the skin starting to sag in, and that gives us the appearance of wrinkles. So if we want to really target aging on the whole, we need to target things like collagen, elastin, and hyaluronic acid synthesis and support to be able to really offer a true solution to anti-aging rather than just mask the symptoms. The visual changes on the surface of the skin and the structural changes beneath, we just spoke a little bit about how they interact. We see fine lines and wrinkles, loss of firmness, dryness, dull, uneven tone, and a rough texture on the skin. That's something that I neglected to mention, but the rough texture on the skin can also be due to a loss of these factors such as collagen, elastin, and hyaluronic acid. So what can we do to kind of support this and target this aging skin? The answer is Hydrocell Youth. So Hydrocell Youth is a clear, transparent technology. It's an advanced raw material that's ready for use. So you can easily incorporate it into your formulation without any special considerations. There's no heat, there's no special mixing, nothing like that. You can just mix it right into your formulation and it'll be good to go. It's a clear, transparent liquid, which means that it can mix into clear formulations as well as lotions without issue. And this allows you versatility in formulation. So we'll talk a little bit in a few minutes about what is inside the Hydrocell Youth. But here I want to highlight the clear formulation and the versatility. So start thinking now, what kind of formulations are you using for anti-aging? And what do you wish could be better about them? What do you need to be better about them? If we look at Hydrocell Youth and as we go through the technology, think about how can I use this in my formulations? How can I benefit from using this easy, intuitive technology? So now we'll get into the nitty-gritty of Hydrocell Youth. What is it? What does it encapsulate? What does it do? Why do we use it? Why do we need it? So this is where I think a lot of questions may arise. And again, we will do the Q&A session at the end. But feel free to, if you're taking notes, just write down your questions. I anticipate many questions about this section, and we'll get to them all at the end. So looking at the technology of Hydrocell Youth, I've been saying Hydrocell Youth, Hydrocell Youth, and now we're going to explain what is Hydrocell. So Hydrocell is a proprietary encapsulation technology. It's a patented system or theory of encapsulation that utilizes a core shell structure for encapsulating functional ingredients to allow for targeted delivery, controlled release kinetics, stability enhancement, increased residence time on the skin, and a litany of other factors that improve well-known functional ingredients and how they interact with the skin. Hydrocell is also used for hair, but obviously today we are going to focus on Hydrocell Youth for skin. So the active ingredients. Again, these are not new active ingredients. Salvona does not create any new active ingredients. We simply take the ingredients that you use, that you know and love, and help them to work better. We supercharge them through encapsulation to allow them to be delivered where they needed for the highest level of efficacy possible and make them easier to work with, more stable as added bonuses. So the active ingredients of this technology are the copper tripeptide, which is perhaps the most interesting functional ingredient. And we'll talk a little bit about each of them at length in the following slides. Low molecular weight hyaluronic acid, which is denoted as LMW, hyaluronic acid, and resveratrol. Now, these are functional ingredients you may have heard of, and some of the questions that we get are around why we encapsulate these functional ingredients. And if that's one of your questions, I can save you the time. You don't have to write it down. I'll be answering that question shortly. But these are the functional ingredients in the core of Hydrocell Youth, in the core. Now, what is the core? The core is a hydrophobic core made up of ceramides. So the ceramides are multifunctional in this technology. They offer a core for us, the actual physical lipid core, and they also offer skin barrier repair when the Hydrocell Youth is applied to the skin. So it's multifaceted, it's dual use for these ceramides in the core. And then with the core, as you remember, I mentioned the shell, we have a hydrophilic polymer shell made up of high molecular weight, or HMW, hyaluronic acid, and cellulose-derived polymers. So this is, in essence, what is Hydrocell Youth. We have our ceramide core, our hydrophilic polymer shell, and our functional ingredients encapsulated within the core, and the core which is then encapsulated within the polymeric shell. Again, ceramide core with the functional ingredients, and then our polymeric shell. Now, why do we use a ceramide core and a polymeric shell? The ceramide core is lipid-based. Ceramides are, of course, lipid-based. And we use a ceramide core to allow for these functional ingredients like copper tripeptide, low molecular weight hyaluronic acid, and resveratrol, these water-soluble ingredients, to be able to bypass lipid bilayers in the skin. As I'm sure you're all aware, there are hydrophobic compounds and hydrophilic compounds. The skin, in general, is hydrophobic. That's why if you ever take a bath or go swimming, you don't begin to swell with water, because your skin, being hydrophobic, keeps the water out of your body. Otherwise, through osmosis, every time we took a bath or got in the ocean, we would swell and then pop. So your skin, being hydrophobic, needs something hydrophobic like a ceramide to carry these functional ingredients to the deeper layers where they can be most effective. Think of the ceramide core as the ticket that allows these functional ingredients to pass through the skin's lipid bilayer and the cells of the skin's lipid bilayers to affect where they need to be, to reach where they need to be most effective. And then, of course, the hydrophilic shell is the exact opposite of a hydrophobic core. Being hydrophilic, the polymer shell allows us to suspend this core in formulation to make it clear, as we saw on the previous slide, easy to work with, and easy to introduce in formulation. There's also the added benefit with this polymeric shell of the high molecular weight hyaluronic acid, which forms a hydrating barrier on the skin when you apply Hydrocell Youth that locks in moisture and actually repairs the skin to allow more moisture to stay trapped and locked in the skin, and have you lose less moisture to the environment and to the air around you, whether it be dry air or just through transepidermal water transfer. So I hope that explains the core shell structure of Hydrocell Youth a little bit more in depth. Again, if you have questions, feel free to write them down and ask them at the end. But moving on here, we're going to look at each of the functional ingredients at length. So one by one, let's look. And I know this is a little bit of a text-heavy slide, but I would encourage you to listen rather than try to read, so that I can explain each functional ingredient. And hopefully, if you have questions, again, we can get to them at the end. We will get to them at the end. So the first ingredient is copper peptide. This is also written as GHKCU. The benefit of copper tripeptide, they are plentiful. There's many benefits. It's a really new and exciting ingredient in skincare for things like wound healing, or things like collagen synthesis, or things like elastin production. Now, if you recall, back when we looked at the diagram of the lower layers of the skin, things like collagen and elastin are integral for supporting that youthful skin. Now, if we're looking to support collagen and elastin, we have this copper peptide, which can do these things that we're looking for, that can stimulate collagen and elastin production. It's a slam dunk for a product like Hydrocell Youth. So copper tripeptide, the benefit is it stimulates collagen and elastin production, and this results in firm, youthful skin. Now, why do we encapsulate this? Again, you can mix copper tripeptide in with any water solution, and it'll mix in just fine. So why do we need to encapsulate it? Again, remember that these water-soluble products cannot effectively pass the skin's lipid bilayer. They absolutely, unequivocally cannot pass through. So we need a carrier for these water-soluble products to be able to reach through the skin's lipid bilayer and actually be effective. Otherwise, they'll sit on the surface of the skin and become washed off and not really be as effective as they can be. Low molecular weight hyaluronic acid offers intense hydration and plumping. Now, this is an ingredient I won't spend too much time talking on because in the field of skincare, hyaluronic acid is widely known, widely used. I'm sure we have a fairly large crowd here today. I'm sure a lot of you have used hyaluronic acid. So you might be asking yourself, why do I encapsulate it? Well, hyaluronic acid can trigger inflammation at high concentrations. It is an acid. Encapsulation helps us control the release kinetics of the hyaluronic acid to reduce irritation risk. While controlling the release kinetics, we also get a targeted delivery to the layers of the skin where hyaluronic acid can work with collagen and elastin to really support that skin health. High molecular weight hyaluronic acid is a moisture retaining ingredient. It helps form a moisture retaining film on the skin surface to improve barrier function. Now, high molecular weight hyaluronic acid has poor skin penetration. It may be larger than the skin's pores or too big to effectively deliver to deep layers of the skin. Now, in this encapsulation, we use it as a shell component in the shell of the hydrocell, not the core, the shell. High molecular weight hyaluronic acid is in the shell. So this is used for its film forming ability, again, to trap and lock in moisture. The encapsulation helps because as we release the core, the center core to the deep layers of the skin, we're able to disperse this shell flat onto the skin in a thin, very thin, not visible to the naked eye, layer of high molecular weight hyaluronic acid for hydration. And last but certainly not least, resveratrol, which is a powerful antioxidant that neutralizes free radicals and reduces signs of aging. Resveratrol also is beneficial in this formulation as it acts as a hyaluronidase. I apologize if that was rushed. The enzyme that breaks down hyaluronic acid, hyaluronidase inhibitor. Resveratrol inhibits the enzyme that breaks down hyaluronic acid, which is why it's integral in a formulation like this to keep our hyaluronic acid in its efficacious state at its efficacious levels until it can be delivered to the deep layers of the skin. And we encapsulate resveratrol to improve its stability and its bioavailability. Again, a water-soluble ingredient. We need the lipid core to deliver it to the skin, and it oxidizes fairly readily. So we need encapsulation to protect it from oxidation. So now that I hope you have a in-depth understanding of hydrocell youth and what the technology is, let's talk a little bit about evaluation in vitro of the technology. And what you see here is a cutometer dual MPA 580. It's a skin testing machine that's used to get objective measurements of quantifications like skin moisturization, transepidermal water loss, skin melanin, skin color, skin elasticity, sebum, as well as shine. There's a litany of tests that this cutometer can run to get us, again, objective measurements, objective quantitative measurements for the efficacy of hydrocell youth. And in this study that we're about to discuss, we used the corneometer here for moisturization, and the tewometer for transepidermal water loss. Don't worry, I'll discuss both of those later. But here we see the skin testing conditions. So we tested skin hydration and barrier properties, which the barrier properties is transepidermal water loss, or TEWL. I'll discuss that later, using a corneometer and a tewometer from Courage and Costco. The lotion containing 2% hydrocell youth was applied to the forearms of volunteers, and these parameters were measured after 8 hours. So the scope of the experiment was, we gathered volunteers and we compared a control lotion's effect on skin hydration and transepidermal water loss versus that same lotion enhanced with 2% hydrocell youth. Now, this is a number I like to highlight because when we go into the results, you'll see that the results are very convincing with only 2% hydrocell youth, which is, of course, a low amount and is cost effective. So we're comparing a control lotion to a lotion with 2% hydrocell youth. And this was measured 8 hours after application to see a very quick turnaround in the benefit of hydrocell youth, coupled with anti-aging data that we'll get into in a little bit. But 8 hours after application is really, really significant turnaround time for an anti-aging product. Let's take a look at some of this data. So for skin moisturization, we see without hydrocell youth in gray, this small, insignificant, almost invisible bar down here. And then with hydrocell youth, look at that, 49.9% up from 21.6%. This is an over 125% increase. Now, this is something that I love to highlight. Over 125% increase. Over 125% increase. This is something that you can claim on your marketing with hydrocell youth. Over 125% increase in moisturization. That is significant. That is eye-grabbing. That is a great number to include on marketing for skin moisturization, not to mention all the other benefits of hydrocell youth. Here we look at transepidermal water loss. And again, I'll explain this metric in case someone is not familiar with what it measures. So if you're ever unfamiliar with a measurement, take a look at the units. We're looking at grams per meter squared per hour. This is a measure of transepidermal water loss. So it's the amount in grams, the volume, or rather the mass of water that we're losing through the skin, through a specific area, a meter squared, over time. How much water is leaving the skin per area, essentially. So knowing that, we can infer that a higher value means more water is leaving the skin. That means a higher value is not desirable. Less water leaving the skin, or a lower value, means that the skin's barrier is more functional, is more whole, and is keeping water in the skin, which is beneficial. That's good. That's what we are looking for. So here we see an over 10% decrease in transepidermal water loss. Over 10% decrease between the control here and the hydrocell youth, again, at only 2%. This decrease, again, you can make marketing claims for transepidermal water loss, for barrier repair, due to the 2% hydrocell youth. Now let's look at some clinical results, some visual results that we can see. Because numbers are all well and good, and those two claims, over 125% moisturization, 10% transepidermal water loss, might not be as compelling as seeing actual photos. So here we compare the in vivo efficacy of two cosmetic products, a base with 2% hydrocell youth and a base without any hydrocell youth as a control. The study was run on 12 healthy Asian females between the age of 57 and 65 years, and the evaluation was performed using an Atera 3D camera for analysis of parameters like skin color, skin texture, and crow's feet wrinkles. This was done by a third-party testing lab, so this data is completely objective and is reliable, significant, and non-biased. So the first thing we'll look at is skin whitening. After 4 weeks of application, 2 parameters associated with skin lightening, skin brightening, skin whitening are improved. We see luminance, or the L parameter, and individual typological angle, the ITA parameter, improved compared to the hydrocell youth, the hydrocell youth improved compared to the control by these units of, or levels of magnitude here. We see this plus 0.19 and here a minus 0.1 in luminance. Think radiance, think brightness. So comparing hydrocell youth to the control, we get a higher L value and ITA value, indicating that the skin becomes visibly brighter, more radiant, and even toned following treatment. Looks like my lines have stayed there. Let me get rid of those here. Perfect. Okay, so now we'll look at smoothness, skin smoothness. And skin smoothness is a parameter that is important because of wrinkles and because we want to see an even skin tone. So all in all, when we're looking to even out the skin, we want to reduce wrinkles, we want to plump the skin, hydrate the skin, brighten the skin. Hydrocell Youth gives you solutions for all these parameters. When we look here at wrinkled skin, in this image A, this is clearly aged skin. Now, if we were to look at before being treated with Hydrocell Youth, what would we expect? On a Visia camera, which can show us the peaks and valleys of the skin, we would expect something like this. The skin, if you look at your scale on the bottom here, there's raised parts in blue, there are deep parts in red, and it's more or less a very uneven roughness of the skin. Now, after 4 weeks with the Hydrocell Youth, we see a vast improvement in skin roughness. 91.7% of participants in the study reported smoother skin. 91.7% of participants reported smoother skin. Now, this is a great point to highlight here. 91.7% reported smoother skin. Because this is the majority, this is the vast majority. So what this is telling me, and what this should tell you, is that this will work for you in offering smoother skin. The average roughness, or RA, decreased by 5.6% compared to the baseline, while the control actually showed an increase. So the parameter of roughness, we saw a decrease by a statistically significant amount. And when we're looking at this initial photo, I apologize, I got a little ahead of myself looking at the initial photo. What would we expect from the 4 weeks photo? We would expect less peaks, less valleys. And we can see here, generally, look in the top left, you can see much less prominence of peaks and valleys. Across the entire photo, we see much less extreme coloration, dark blue and dark red, which is indicative of very high or very low areas. So after 4 weeks of application with the Hydrocell Youth, we can see that there is a much smoother effect on the skin. Now, quantitatively, what does this look like? There's a significant difference in these two parameters between the control and the Hydrocell Youth. A lower value means less roughness. So if you look at these two graphs between the Hydrocell Youth and the control, you can see how we came to the conclusion that Hydrocell Youth was able to significantly improve the skin texture after 4 weeks of application versus the control. So the two we hit on so far were skin brightening and skin texture. So if you have any application for skin brightening or for skin smoothing or for skin plumping, hydration, barrier repair, Hydrocell Youth is the solution for you. And that's why we're so excited about it. See, because it's kind of a synergetic attack on all angles of aging. Now let's look at crow's feet wrinkles. Crow's feet wrinkles are wrinkles around the eyes, and we'll look at here T equals 0 weeks and T equals 4 weeks. These photos on the left are photos of the actual skin, and on the right, they are analyzed by the Antera 3D camera. And here we can see, after 4 weeks, the improvement from Hydrocell Youth. Here, excuse me 1 second while I pull up my pen again. We see this improvement here from the Hydrocell Youth, and no similar improvement from the control. So with crow's feet wrinkles, we see the decrease in wrinkles around the eyes, and we will talk about the the quantitative analysis of these crow's feet wrinkles here. We see Hydrocell Youth significantly improves the fine line and wrinkles of crow's feet. After using the product, we saw wrinkle length reduced by 30%, wrinkle area decreased by 30%, wrinkle count reduced by 30%, and wrinkle volume decreased by 22%. These are all statistically significant claims that we were given by this third-party lab. These are all claims that you can make using your Hydrocell Youth. And think of the possibilities combining these claims. Over 125% moisturization after 8 hours, with 10% transepidermal water loss, with 30% wrinkle count reduction, with skin brightening, with skin smoothing. I mean, the possibilities really are endless, and it's such a versatile technology that's easy to use that I'm certain there is a use for it in every formulation regarding anti-aging that you guys might have. So here, I would encourage you to take notes of this screen, or perhaps screenshot this screen if you have the capability to do so, as we are going to go through all of these that I just said. These are the clinically proven benefits of Hydrocell Youth. It boosts skin moisture by 125% within 8 hours of a single application. Very quick turnaround for those results. We reduce transepidermal water loss by over 10% to strengthen the skin barrier. We improve skin brightness by 200% for a visibly more radiant tone. We refine skin texture by 5.6%, which is statistically significant. And we see this in over 90% of our users. We reduce crow's feet wrinkles by 30% with improvements in length, area, and wrinkle count. And it's safe and well tolerated. So we do have RIPT, repeated insult patch testing, done on the Hydrocell Youth, where we see no adverse reactions, no skin sensitivities anticipated. This is a safe and easy to use product where you can make all of these claims. So how to formulate with Hydrocell Youth? You add it during the cool down phase of your formulation at or below 40, under gentle mixing, standard vortex mixing. There's no high shear required. The ideal pH range is going to be around the pH of the skin, 5 to 6. It's dispersible in water and easily incorporates into serums, lotions, and creams. If you're going to add it to an emulsion, you want to make sure that the oil phase is emulsified with the water phase before introducing Hydrocell Youth. So you can just introduce that in. And the recommended usage level is typically between 2 to 10%, depending on the desired strength of the anti-aging activity. Again, these tests were all done at only 2% of Hydrocell Youth. Only 2%. And we see these amazing results. Of course, if you want more potency, if you want more brightening or more wrinkle reduction, more moisturization, you're free to add the Hydrocell Youth at a higher percentage. And I can't speak to the benefits you would receive there. It would be purely speculative. But if we're seeing these results at 2%, I'd be very interested to see if you were to incorporate 5% or 7% or 10%, how well you would do with moisturization, with anti-wrinkles, and so on. These are some example formulations with the Hydrocell Youth, a lotion and a serum. You're able to use these. These are just to give ideas on formulating for those of us who might not know what kind of formulations we want or where to incorporate the Hydrocell Youth. These are just quick example formulations. And now, thank you all so much for taking the time to listen. We're going to open up for a Q&A. And before I get to your questions, I have a question for all of you. And if you feel like it, if you feel so inclined, let me know what claim from the Hydrocell Youth was most interesting to you, or maybe what product you see Hydrocell Youth being beneficial for you in the future. So if you have time, or if you feel like it, let me know your favorite claim from Hydrocell Youth, or what products you think it could be beneficial in. And that'll be a little something for me to look into as we reel in these questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, John, for that thorough look into Hydrocell Youth. I think you covered a lot of ground there. I'm going to open up the floor to some questions. I know some have already come in. If you guys have any that you can think of, this is the opportunity. So please use that chat or the Q&A button. And we will start getting through some of these. So let's see. First one up. Can you combine Hydrocell Youth with other anti-aging actives, such as retinol or peptides?
Yes, you can. That's a good question. You can combine youth with other actives like retinol and peptides to get a multifaceted anti-aging approach. The one note I would have with that is retinol shouldn't be used in the morning. It should really only be used as a night cream because it's sensitive to the sun. So I would just be careful formulating with that if it were a day cream.
Okay, next one. What is the size distribution of the encapsulated spheres?
The hydrocell spheres are typically between 0.1 to 0.5 microns.
Okay, easy enough. Let's see what else we got. How is this technology different from standard hyaluronic acid serums? Why should I formulate with this version if I'm already formulating with other similar products?
So the difference between this and other hyaluronic acids, like we discussed a little bit earlier in the presentation, is you won't have a problem formulating with hyaluronic acid. And that's the true and honest answer. The issue is you're not getting that delivery to the deeper layers of the skin. And truthfully, you're working harder than you have to get that efficacy that you could get much easier and with much less effort by using encapsulated hyaluronic acid from Hydrocell Youth.
Okay. Are there any incompatibilities of this hydrocell technology, for example, acids in the same phase?
So it's hard to kind of say all incompatibilities in one shot. If I had a better idea maybe of what you were looking for, that might help to answer. But in general, Hydrocell Youth is compatible with most formulations. As far as incompatibilities, if there's something specific you wanted to test, you might have to try that empirically. But there's nothing that comes to mind that it would be incompatible with.
Okay. This touches on that a little bit. Encapsulated CTP. Hydrocell Youth means it's possible to combine with vitamin C. It seems that they heard that vitamin C is not compatible.
Let me get involved here. CTP stands for copper peptides, I guess.
Copper track.
So the question that you're asking is whether you can combine CTP, copper peptide, with vitamin C. The answer is not. You cannot. Even if you encapsulate the copper peptide inside the ceramides, and you understand now the ceramide has dual function. One is filling up the interspace between the cells of the stratum corneum in order to retain the water. This is the function of ceramides, retaining the water. Because if we lose too much water, the cells die, they dry out and die. And this keeps the action in. Now, you cannot combine, we don't recommend to combine vitamin C or other acids with copper peptide, even if copper peptide is encapsulated. Copper peptide is a water-soluble material. It cannot penetrate easily into the skin. So people have a good time to say it goes into the formula and they're happy. But the amount that is penetrating to the dermis is very, very low, which means it will take a long time to see the effect. Here you can see the effect in 4 weeks. And this is because the ceramide is carrying the apopeptide and also carrying hyaluronic acid. So when you use hyaluronic acid, now I'm answering to question number 2. Hyaluronic acid, high molecular weight, impossible to penetrate. It's just impossible. That's why, you know, in some injection, people inject hyaluronic acid subcutaneously under the skin. High molecular weight cannot penetrate. Low molecular weight has a better chance to penetrate, but still it's very water soluble. Water soluble cannot penetrate the dermis. That's the function of the encapsulation. Encapsulation into ceramide has this function to penetrate, and it carries in the hydrophilic ingredient. In this case is the low molecular weight hyaluronic acid. Now, hyaluronic acid is required because the amount of hyaluronic acid in the lower layers of the skin is giving an indication to the DNA to produce more hyaluronic acid, large molecular weight. Okay, that's why it's important not just to pump up and bring more water into the deeper layer, but also to send a signal. The same thing with copper peptide. Copper peptide by itself is not doing much. It's just giving a signal. That's why you don't need a lot. It's like communicating with the DNA to produce more collagen. It's indicator. The same thing, low molecular weight hyaluronic acid is a signal to trigger the continuous release of and production of high molecular weight hyaluronic acid. That's what we need in order to have a plump skin. Now, here the function of high molecular weight is only to protect the core. It's the shell for the core. Protect it from what? From other materials that may interact, and also to ensure that the hydrophilic ingredients, copper peptide, low molecular weight, are locked in into the ceramides. This is the function, and this is the purpose in terms of the initial function. Then the second function is once you put it on the skin and gently rub it, the shell will form a film on the skin. This film holding the water, and it gives immediate effect of moisturization, and it's preventing the perspiration of too much water. Then it dries to prevent the dry out of the skin. This is the transepidermal water measurement. Now, typically, transepidermal water measurement after half an hour give you very good results, but not after 8 hours. That means that within 8 hours, the hyaluronic acid and the ceramide were able to penetrate into their location, the intercellular and the deeper layer, and protect the water, hold on to the water. That's why there is no continuous transportation of water And that means that the cells retain the water, they're hydrated, and they're wonderful, and everything can work inside the cells, and they look good. This is the meaning of the 10%. 10% is a lot in this kind of things. The core does not become a solution because it's lipid, and a solution is water. The lipid retain its own integrity. In the past, if you remember, in salt sphere technology, we use waxes. Waxes are not soluble in water. They are able to hold on to this material. This is the first time that instead of waxes, we are using ceramides, which is more compatible with the skin and gives a better result in the skin. Do we use why do we use hydrosol and not salt sphere? Salt sphere is based on waxes, oils. Okay, they are natural, they are okay to use, but ceramide, it has a different function here. It's filling up the intercellular space, which is amazing contribution. That's why we get huge amount suddenly of holding the water, moisturization. And why it's important to have moisturization, because when the skin, the cells are fully capacity with water, they can accommodate all the biological process, and the skin looks better. If it's dry, it looks like dry. So it's not so favorite. We need a lot of humidity, a lot of moisture, hydration into the cells to be able to function. And the ceramide is doing it on one hand. This also, as the ceramide penetrate, it brings in the hydrophilic ingredients that otherwise would not be able to penetrate.
Okay.
Incompatibility with hydrosol acid, we talked.
Oh, Sam, I was reading the question so that everybody knows what questions we're on. Do we have any data on pH range for maximum efficacy?
I think we mentioned, John mentioned between 5 and 6 our ideal pH. 5.5, this is ideal for the skin, and this is also ideal for this kind of technology. Don't use it above 7, and don't use it below 5.5.
Okay. Who is a current customer that's using Hydrocell Youth?
Oh, wow, we cannot disclose customers. Sorry, we cannot disclose customer, definitely not in the US, because we signed a confidentiality agreement, but maybe in the future we can show you finished product with hyaluronic acid, with hydrosol youth. There are many. It's a product that we launched only a couple of months ago, end of last quarter 4, I think, of last year. And we get more and more interest, and it's a growing business. We suggest this product for you. Why? Why we think it would be great for your area? Because it's much cheaper than retinol, and it's as effective as retinol. It also can be used during day and during night. There is no limitation. You can use it in different forms of product, lotion or serum. So it's on one hand, it's a low-cost product, but high efficacy product.
Okay. Does the product encounter tests like comparing one of encapsulated versus non-capsulated? Part 2 is at what depth of the skin can it penetrate?
Okay, we don't do the test with the active by itself and active encapsulated. With the active by itself, there are plenty of data. And many companies offer this data, and you can look at this and enjoy the information. We want to show the efficacy of the system, not just the active. We choose active. We choose if active ingredients that have efficacy. Otherwise, we would not even bother to encapsulate them. We take them as is, and we want to enhance their performance. Our business is enhancing the performance of known, safe, and effective ingredients, make it to the next stage. This is about why we do this testing. And what else was the other part?
The
What was the other
depth,
part?
the depth of the
The
skin
depth.
testing.
This is something that we don't do this kind of testing on human skin or animal skin, definitely not animal skin. But the key is this. We have enough background to understand how the physiology and the biology of the skin works. We know how it works. We know what's penetrate, but not, and so on. We did a lot of testing to show hydrophilic cannot penetrate. That cannot penetrate to the level that we can detect it by HPLC. And if we cannot detect it, then it has no value. Now, the key is, do you see the benefit? Does it work? This is the measure, because if I give you that it's penetrating 20 cells or 30 cells, okay, you will be happy to know, but does it work better? That's the why we do clinical studies, to confirm that it works better and you get a statistical significant number. Yes.
Okay. So for hydrocell youth, what other actives is it compatible with, such as treating acne or skin brightening with
You
a
can
different
add,
function?
yeah, you can add skin brightening active. I would not say you can add salicylic acid. Shy away, don't use acid together with this technology. No need to. You can combine acid in different other products. You know that we're expert in delivering acids, alpha and beta hydroxy acids. But this is not for acid. Now, for mature skin, it's not recommended to use acids. Mature skin is more sensitive, okay, to acid. That's why we do slow release of acid to compromise. But people that have acne need acid. They don't need youth, typically. Youth is recommended for mature skin, okay? No, so please don't combine. Yes.
Okay, so far, are there any significant side effects shown using hydrocell? Then what
Zero.
will happen if you use a concentration of 10% or more?
Okay. One of the interesting results coming out from the clinical study that we did with multiple ladies at a mature age, there was nobody who study. Everybody went through the 4 weeks and even asked for more. Nobody stopped. Typically, if it's a people withdraw from other tests. And I think John ran a test with WIP test, which is the standard test for repeated insult on the skin, and it came out fantastic. It's a very safe product, and we definitely recommend for people with sensitive skin to look into this. I think, but I don't have data to confirm, but from my experience, it would be much more effective, much more safer even than retinol. Some people have a reaction with retinol, okay? Although it's retinol is encapsulated, it's slowly released. Free retinol is more aggressive, but when encapsulated, it's slowly released. This is ideal for people with sensitive skin. This, I mean, hydrocell youth.
Okay. Can we combine hydrocell youth with alpha arbutin encapsulated?
Yes, you can combine. Sure, you can combine. We also actually we're using we're offering Salsphere light, which is light. It's in combination of resveratrol again and alpha-arbutin. These two ingredients are combined in Salsphere. Yes, it's possible to do, and you will get probably much better results in terms of lightening, brightening. Now, this lightening is interesting. The L parameter is indicating and not just lightening, but also brightening of the skin. Brightening means a shift from yellow to white. And that's the value of this number. The shift to white color of the skin compared to yellow color of the skin. And this is what makes the skin for lightening. Yes, Salsfil Light is recommended to be combined with Hydrosal Youth.
What kind of marketing claims can we make, such as clean beauty, sensitive skin, globally compliant, etc.?
All of them, because it's all clean beauty. It's all, John, what other claims we put together?
It's Sephora Clean,
Sephora Clean.
yes. And it is all of your Target, Walmart, Ulta, I believe global compliant.
Globally compliant. Yeah, we heard that there was an issue in China about copper peptide. It's not listed. Yes, some people say it's listed. Some people say it's not listed. There is no tox data. There is tox data. I'm not sure. So you have to ask your local regulatory officers. In the US, when we ask our regulatory officers, the message is it's China compliant. It's globally compliant.
Okay. What is the minimum and maximum dosage for using Hydrocell Youth?
Well, we're showing you 2%. You can use 10%. Maybe you can use more, I don't know. But there is nothing there that could cause any kind of harm. That's the beauty of these ingredients. It's a water suspension technology. It's very soft and very gentle on the skin. There is not much else, but we show you data with 2%. You may not think about why to use more. You can use in combination with this, maybe Salsfil Light. That's yes, or Hydrosal Moisturizer if you want to boost it. But we show you one single technology with amazing results, amazing benefits. Why do you need more? But if you want, you can use more.
Okay,
Yeah.
a question in the
Next.
Q&A. Can we use it with hydroquinone? I don't know how to say that.
You can use it with hydroquinone. Hydroquinone is okay. You can use it with hydroquinone. In the US, we cannot use it with hydroquinone. Hydroquinone is regulated. It requires prescription. And I know in other countries, it's okay to use. In the US, not. Yes, next. I see very good question.
What is the reason why ceramide AP is used for a ceramide core? Why not the other types of ceramides? Is there a particular reason for this?
No, I don't think so. There is no particular reasons. There is no particular reason. We can use any kind of ceramides. They're all compatible. They all do the same job.
Okay.
Well, there are many kinds of ceramides.
Are there any challenges in formulating a
continue.
preparation with this hydrocell technologies? For example, in terms of mixing solution temperature or pH? Any challenges in formulating with it?
So when you formulate with hydrocell, challenges, there shouldn't be any. So in terms of mixing, you don't need to high shear it. You can add it under standard vortex mixing. Temperature, you want to add it at the end of your formulation. I kind of liken it to how you might add a preservative. You wait till the end of formulation below 40 degrees and then you add it. It's the same process with Hydrocell Youth. Solubility, it is a water soluble technology, but you can add it in things like creams and lotions as well. You just want to add it after you've emulsified the oil phase into the water phase. Again, like when you would add the preservative. And for pH, you should just try to keep it around the pH of the healthy skin. You know, what you might expect a skin product to be at pH wise. 4.5, 5.5 to 6 would be the healthy pH range.
Good. Next.
I think that's it. Unless anybody else has any more questions, we can go ahead and conclude this. I'm going to remind everybody There will be a short survey at the very end of this that it'll pop up on your screen. We really appreciate your feedback to help us improve our future webinars. One last question just came through. Is any data that how to maintain hydrocell keep stable in condition or maintain? So is there any data for
You don't need any specific conditions to store the hydrocell. It doesn't have to be kept in a cold room or anything like that. You can just keep it on the shelf in a closed container.
Room temperature, typically. And we did our own stability test. The product is pretty stable. It's one of the most stable product. So you can keep it for maybe 2 years. And maybe that's the way to go. You can buy larger volume and then slowly release it. By buying a larger volume, you get a major discount per kilo. Okay. Thank you very much for everybody.
John, can you just real quickly put up that the contact list, please?
Yes.
Almost.
I'll reshare my screen here.
So John's going to post our contacts, our email addresses for everyone that you see here today, as well as the Vice President of R&D, Dr. Helena Baranova. Feel free to reach out if you need anything, if you want more details, if you have other questions. We're going to send a copy of this. I know somebody asked about getting a copy of this presentation. We're most definitely can send that out to you. These are the emails if you would like to jot them down. If you don't have them already, take note. You can also always go to our website and there's a contact page that'll bring you directly to anybody in the sales team, myself and Dr. Sheffer. And yeah, please, we encourage you to do the survey and we look forward to our next webinar, probably in maybe 6 weeks. So be on the lookout for that. If you're not subscribed to our newsletters, please let us know. That always gives you the updates of the future webinars as well. And on that note, I will say thank you all for your time. It's been a pleasure. I hope you found this informative and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you soon.